Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Lucero, and I'm a Med Programming Coordinator for this year's conference. Our next keynote speaker is from the University of California, Los Angeles, Department of Neurosurgery, where he is an assistant professor. He is also a principal investigator at the UCLA Malignant Brain Tumor Laboratory. His interest in neurobiology began at UC Berkeley, where he received his bachelor's degree. He received his medical degree from UCLA and then went on to complete his residency training in neurosurgery, as well as a brain tumor research fellowship at the University of California, San Francisco. He has received several distinguished regional and national awards and has published over 65 publications in peer-reviewed journals. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Issac Yang.
Are my slides up? All righty. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here. I love being here at UC Davis, and you know where they put the best talks? Right before lunch. And so I am the only thing standing between you and lunch, and so I hope to make this worthwhile, and I hope to make this good. Let me just see first a show of hands. How many high school students do I have here? Yeah, nice and early. And how many freshmen? Freshmen? Okay, a few. Sophomores? Okay, and so you guys are thinking early about what you want to become and what you do. And you can see my slides. So I thought about this. I thought about what do I want to come talk to UC Davis people about, and it's such an honor to be here. I thought about what it would be for me to talk to me as either a high school student or as a freshman or a sophomore. And really what I want to talk about is, you guys don't want to know about what I do or brain surgery. You guys are here at what? The Pre-Med Health, Pre-Med Student Coalition. Why? Because you want to be what? Not pre-med anymore, right? If you're pre-med forever, if you're 80 years old and you're still pre-med, not that there's anything wrong with being 80 and pre-med, but you're pre-med. Why? Because one day you hope not to be pre-med. You want to be med. You want to be wearing scrubs. You want to be doing the job. And so I titled my talk, So You Want to Be a Doctor, an insider's guide to becoming a doctor. And I hope that this is good for you. So I just want to thank the UC Davis Pre-Health Students Alliance, formerly known as AMSA and ARC. And I thank them because I'm the faculty advisor for both medical student AMSA and pre-med AMSA at UCLA. And I'm deeply honored for this opportunity, so thank you. Oops. Is this the slide? Okay, good, I'm so sorry. And so I want to make this worthwhile, okay? I know that right now you could be out there getting your breakfast burritos or your lunch, and you could be eating. And I know I'm 20 minutes away from holding you here, and I know you really want to go. I want to do two things, two goals. Number one, I want you to say, that was worth it. That was worth my 20 or 30 minutes. If you walk out here and you say that was not worth it, you come find me, okay? Or Facebook me or Twitter me, and I will come make sure it's worth it. So I have one goal, make it worthwhile. Number two, I want to make this the best keynote you will hear all weekend. I know that's a hard goal. There was a lot of good talks, and that's my goal. And this is where I want to start off with. You want to get a hold of me, you want to ask me something, you can email me. You want to find me on Facebook, I'm there too. Twitter, Google+, we'll go anywhere the people go. Anywhere people go, pre-meds go, we'll follow. We're not going to Snapchat though. Somehow that always gets laughed. And I really want to be here. This is me giving up my Saturday afternoon away from my daughter, away from my wife, or, away from my family time that I could be having. I choose to be here. I want to be here. So I hope that you want to be here listening to this, to the best keynote that's most awesome, and that'll be very worthwhile so that you are going to be back in line for lunch. So what's my insider's experience? Well, I graduated from UC Berkeley in 2000, and I went to UCLA for medical school, and I graduated from UCLA in 2004. I graduated with AOA honors. I was on the admissions committee for 2 years. And like Renee said, I went to UCSF and did my residency there, and so I was on admissions and committees and things like this for over 10 years, and I've been advising pre-meds for over 10 to 15 years. This is what I like to do. I like watching pre-meds become un-pre-meds. I like people stop being pre-meds, not because they go to do something else, but because they become doctors. And this is what I really enjoy doing. So this is what I want to talk about. Why become a doctor? I know that there's a lot of people here who are on this pathway, and God knows I'm Asian American, so I know the stereotype, becoming a doctor or a lawyer or play a musical instrument, right? I know the stereotype, and I grew up in that kind of family, and so why become a doctor? Is this something you're just being pushed along to do? And I have a lot of people who come to me and say, Isaac, I really want to be a doctor. And I said, well, do you like sick patients? And they're like, I really don't like germs. I'm like, well, how do you deal with the sight of blood? Oh, I pass out. I'm like, well, do you want to work in a hospital? Oh, I hate hospitals. And I said, but why do you want to be a doctor? And being a medical doctor is about helping people, right? You stop to think about it, not just helping people, helping really sick people. Sick people in hospitals where there are all the germs and all the people who really need help. The other thing about being a doctor that's amazing is the intimate relationship you have with doctors. Do you ever think about that? When you go see a doctor, what do doctors make you do? They make you wait, right? In a waiting room, and you wait and wait and wait, and then what? They make you go into a room, and what do they say? They say, please take off all your clothes, and please put on this paper gown with your butt flapping in the wind. And what do? You do it because you want to see a doctor. I mean, if someone else in this stage came by and said, please take off all your clothes and put this on, just sit there and wait, what would you do? You say, I'm going to go get lunch, right? You're not going to sit there and say, I'm going to sit for this keynote talk. That's ridiculous. But doctors and patients have this incredibly intimate relationship. And for me, as a surgeon, not only do my patients do all that for me, they hand me a knife and they say, would you mind stabbing me in the brain? Do you see what I'm saying? My patients are asleep and intubated, but what am I doing every day when I operate? I'm stabbing them with a small knife. It's called surgery. It's called surgery, but in essence, that's what they're doing. What are they doing? They're putting their trust in me. And those are the kinds of people that these admissions people are looking for. Who is worthy of that trust? What happens during the middle of my surgery if I decide to say, you know what? I need to go check Facebook, check the LA Dodgers score, and I need to go do something else. And I don't take care of my patients. Something bad will happen. And so my patients trust me, and it's an incredibly intimate relationship. It's almost like mother and child. They're trusting me to take care of them, and with that great responsibility. It's like that line in Spider-Man, right? With that great power comes great responsibility. And that's what you are looking to become. And I think it's awesome. I love being a doctor. I think it's wonderful to see so many people in this room who are willing to delay their lunch because they want to know what's the path to becoming a doctor. You want to make a difference. You want to help people. And so it's about, do you want to ask yourself, do you want to make a difference with your career, or do you want to make a salary? And the thing I love about being a doctor is that every day when I go to work, I know I'm making a difference. I know I am helping people. And so you have to have this sincere desire to want to work and help people. Why? It's a very long road. They just discussed this. You're going to graduate from college. You're going to go to college, graduate from college, and then what? Go to medical school. And after medical school, you do what? Internship. And after internship, you do residency. And after residency, you do fellowship. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of school. It's a lot of school to make this difference, to be focused on a difference that you want to help people. And so it's really an amazing thing that you really want to make this difference in people's lives. Well, if I could leave you with one thing, if I could give you one piece of advice, I call this the Roger Bannister principle. If you want to become a success, whether you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, whether you want to become a pharmacist or a nurse, I leave you with one principle, and I call it the Roger Bannister principle. How many of you here know who Roger Bannister is? Anybody? Yeah. Who's Roger Bannister? Yeah, he was the 4-minute miler. Before Roger Bannister, for all of human history, they said what? No human being can run the 4-minute mile. No bipedal human being can run 1 mile in under 4 minutes. They said it's impossible. For as long as humans existed, it will never be done. And then in 1953, Roger Bannister, who, by the way, was a medical student who went into neurology, and he's commonly quoted saying that the people he helps every single day was much bigger than the achievement of his 4-minute mile, for which he's most well known. So he ran the 4-minute mile. And so after he ran the 4-minute mile, do you think he was the only human being to run the 4-minute mile? That's the question. Like, was he the mutant? Was he the X-Man? No, after him, the 2 years after him, almost 24 people ran the 4-minute mile. And the reason why I call this the Roger Bannister principle isn't because of his great achievement. I call it because of mentorship. I'm pretty certain that all those people that came after him called up Roger Bannister and said, what's your training regimen? Are you eating Wheaties? Are you doing stairs? Are you doing P90X or Insanity? What's your training regimen? Because I want to do it too. The quickest, fastest, best way to success is to find that person who's doing exactly what you want to do and follow lockstep in behind them. And you want to look at all of the world's greatest achievers, whether it's Barack Obama or Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, Oprah Winfrey, all of the world's greatest achievers have always had mentors. And I really cannot emphasize that this is such a critical point, that one person, based on your talent and hard work, you can only get so far. It's true in my life, and I believe that this is the quickest and fastest, best way to success. And anyone can be your mentor. If you're a freshman or a sophomore, a junior or a senior can be a mentor. A resident, parents, any physician, find someone who's doing exactly what you want to do, because that's the quickest and fastest, best way to success. And that these are the qualities of a good mentor. Mentors will always be busy. You're going to look at people who are successful. You want to come to them with a win-win proposition. You want to come with them with humility. Okay, you're going to be looking at people who have achieved a lot in their lives, and you'll be going, well, did you know I was president of AMSA ARC? You want to come with them with humility and know that they want to give their time and desire to you. And lastly, what I think is important is look at someone whose core values match up with your core values. I think this is something beyond being a doctor, that their values match up with yours, because values are important. Well, I said I want this to be worthwhile, and I said that you don't want to be pre-med forever, right? Well, here are the steps not to becoming pre-med, and these are not secrets. There are 5 steps to becoming a doctor. Number 1, you have to have a good GPA. You have to have a good MCAT score, a personal statement, interviews, letters of recommendation, and extracurricular activities. And I want this to be worthwhile. I don't want you going, Isaac just said this nice and pansy, Roger Bannister, soft and fluffy. I want to give you hardcore, concrete evidence and concrete advice from my experience. So the first thing about personal statements, make it about you. You know that we spend about 1 minute reading these personal statements. There's so many of them. There are thousands. We can't spend that much, and yet you are going to nit and pick about these personal statements over and over again. And the most common mistake I see about personal statement, it goes like this. Well, my name is Isaac Yang, and I was a volunteer in the pediatric center, and I saw this kid named George, and he had cancer. And he was so brave. He always smiled through the chemotherapy. He always had a joke, and he came every day with a spirit that was unrelentingly optimistic. And I read this personal statement and go, man, this kid George sounds awesome. You see what I'm saying? It tells me nothing about you. It tells me nothing about your personal in the personal statement. And so I advise you, make your personal statements about yourselves. I don't think personal statements can help you all that much. We're going to spend 45 seconds to a minute, but I think it can hurt you a lot if you do something really bad in it. We have rolling admissions. You want to apply earlier, not later. It's a first come, first serve kind of situation. There are more applicants than there are slots, and so you want to apply early. There's nothing else around that. And then for the interviews, what is it about being a doctor? Being a doctor is about going to that patient who's in that paper gown, who's been waiting for you, who's hungry, whose butt is flapping in the wind. And you want to make that person what? Comfortable. You want that person to like you, so that when you ask them about heart problems, hypertension, drugs, sexual partners, they feel comfortable to say, hey, doc, this is what's going on. And if you can't make it to me, and I'm not a patient of yours, you can't make me feel comfortable, how are you going to do this to your patients? And so this interview portion is about you connecting with people. We want to see how well you connect. And it's very important to tell the truth, because medicine is a very small field. And the reason why these things are important is because getting into medical school is harder now than it's ever been. These are the most recent numbers of applying into medical school. This is from the Washington Post, that 45,000 people applied to become doctors last year. More people want to make a difference now than ever before. And so it's harder. And so these are the things that you have to do. And so what did we do at UCLA? Well, I'm the faculty advisor for both medical school AMSA and pre-med AMSA. And I like Apple products. I have a MacBook Pro, I have an iPhone 5, I have an iPad. I love Apple products. And so I call this our one more thing. And so we came up with a program called AMSA. Yeah, I'm the AMSA advisor. It's the AMSA Medical Student Advising Program. And this was a really awesome product that took off, and it won a national recognition at the National AMSA meeting, is that at UCLA we started AMSA. Since I'm the advisor for medical school AMSA, and I'm the advisor for pre-med AMSA, and I believe in mentorship, we had the medical students come and eat lunch at a certain table every day, Monday through Friday. And pre-med AMSA students could go there in 15-minute blocks and say, hey, Roger Bannister, I have a question. And so this was AMSA, and this was really awesome. This really took off at UCLA as an awesome thing. Well, I believe in Apple, so you know what I'm going to do, right? iPhone 5S, right? Next Apple product. And so our next product was AMSA App, Application Process Pals. And I know it sounds like I'm selling something, but all of this was for free. And what this was we took AMSA medical students and helped the fourth-year pre-med AMSA students and mentor them one-on-one to help them with their application process. Imagine how awesome this was. And this is all free at UCLA. And this really helped envision my access for saying, you know what, it's not about just talking about mentorship, it's about making it happen. And so we took these senior medical students and helped them mentor the pre-med undergrads. And I think this was really important. This really took off at our school as well. This was instant guidance through the medical school application process. This was this finding that mentor who's doing exactly what you want to do. And our pre-med AMSA students at UCLA, guess where they want to be medical students at? They want to stay at UCLA. And so this became a really cool thing to do. And so if I can leave you with this advice is, think about what you want to do. Think about whether or not you really want to be a doctor. Do you want to help sick patients? Do you want to be in the hospital every day? Do you want to make a difference? And then if you want to achieve this success, find your mentorship. Find your Roger Bannister, because it's the most important step to finding success. Now, this is what I do at the hospital. I operate through a microscope, and we look at tumors. My specialty is brain tumors, and so we do brain surgery to do brain tumors through a microscope. I think most people think I look down, but usually I'm looking through a microscope to operate on the brain. And the kinds of tumors that we do are things like this. This is an acoustic neuroma or vestibular schwannoma, and you can see the tumor there pushing on those nerves. And this is what makes these surgeries so challenging, is that you really have to take delicate care to leave the brain alone, but take the tumor out, and that you want to see your patients do really well. When I was a fellow out in Oakland, this is another patient that we saw. This was a young child. There was a drive-by shooting. Do you see the bullet? The bullet went through her cousin's head, thigh, in and out, and stopped right here in the middle of her forehead. This next is graphic. I know you want graphic pictures right before lunch. Here's the bullet. This is the bullet in the person's forehead. You can see that we are pulling it back, and you can see it. This is the bullet when it's out. Embrace yourselves. This is the hole that was left, and we had to repair this after the bullet. I know. Go eat lunch. How do we put this into real practice? How do I talk about making a difference? How do I talk about being a doctor? Not who's just focused on the technical aspects of being a doctor, but one who can really think about being a mentor. One who can really think about connecting with their patients. And not just having my patients say, hey, do the surgery, but really trying to connect with them. My team at UCLA, we put out this book called The Service-Minded Physician. We sat down with some of the world's greatest doctors, Dr. Collins, Eugene Washington, Dr. Drake, the chancellor at UC Irvine. We even interviewed Patch Adams. And we just asked them simple questions about how they felt about being a doctor, the human side of being a doctor. How do you connect? What drives you? What sustains you? And this is out there, and this is the clip from Amazon. If you really want to know how I connect this into my practice, you can read this, because for me, I think there's a stereotype. There's a stereotype that what? Surgeons are not so nice. There's a stereotype that surgeons are gruff and mean and hard to connect with. And I try to break that stereotype. I try not to be that way, because when I go see doctors and when my family members have surgeons, I want them to connect with their patients. I want them to say, hey, this is someone I connect with. When I go to work every day, I want to make a difference in their lives. And so can you do it? The last thing that I'm going to say is, if you were sitting there in that chair and you were me, what would I want to tell myself? I'd want to say one thing: you can do it. You absolutely can do it. If you have a dream that you want to be a doctor, that you want to grow up and make a difference, I'm saying you can do it. No one told me that across the pathway. Being pre-med is really competitive. I've heard a rumor that being pre-med makes you a jerk. I've heard a rumor that pre-med students are overly competitive and not nice to each other. I'm asking you to break that stereotype. You are trying to go out there and make a difference. You are here at the biggest and largest national pre-med conference to learn something, to learn about helping people. And that begins today. That begins now. That if you want to help people, I believe with all my heart that you can do it. That if you want to be a doctor, you can do it. And I'm not saying any kind of sunshine, hocus pocus, you're going to get accepted to medical school the first time. You're going to score 44 on your MCAT. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if you need to take a longer path, you need to go a circuitous path. Maybe you need to do a PhD or an MPH. Maybe you need to do a post-bac. But if you stay on this dream, on this path, I believe if you do not give up, you can achieve this. And the reason why I think this is because if I can do it, you can do it. I really think that. That don't let the numbers scare you. Don't think about all the numbers of becoming a doctor and thinking of all the odds. Think about what you can do. And the reason why I bring this up is because behind every famous and successful person are a huge number of failures. Do you know who this is? This is Michael Jordan. And with all due respect to LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players who ever lived. Did you know Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team? He did. And do you think they cut him because he was 6'6" and could slam dunk and had the most awesome fadeaway ever? No, they cut him and said what? You know what, Michael? Basketball probably isn't your thing. Badminton's that way. Chess club is that way. But you probably will never be good at basketball. I don't know if they really said that to him, but they cut him. And I think about what Michael Jordan did on that night, and this is all speculation, but I'm willing to bet he went home and maybe cried. I would have cried. And it's not the fact that he failed, but it's his response to failure. He got cut from his high school basketball team. He responded to that. Behind every successful person is unsuccess. You just don't see it. You look at me and say, whoa, that guy Issac, he's a neurosurgeon. He graduated from medical school. He did all that. He must have never failed. And I put up my failures here, the obvious failures. I passed calculus AP when I was a high school student. I went to Lodi High down in the valley. And then I took calculus at Berkeley, and I almost failed it. I was failing my midterms and dropping the class. And I said, what is going on? It does not compute. You know how someone said, are there pictures of you streaking? Well, I joined a fraternity my freshman year at college. There are pictures of me streaking. You want to look at the failures? I have failed. You want to look at the one lone reject from the NIH program, Howard Hughes, 2002, from UCLA? I am him. And they looked at me and said, I went to my Berkeley office and said, what happens if I fail calculus? And they said, you know what, business is that way, history is that way. You know what, Issac, this medicine thing, probably not going to work out for you. It happens to every single one of us. And so if one person could have told me one thing, what I wanted to hear was that if this is your dream, you can do it. And I believe absolutely that you can do it. And so that is what I want to leave you with, that this is a picture of me in college under a sign that says Friends by Issac. And this is me operating in my residency. And I hope you enjoy this journey going along the pathway. And that if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to find me either on Facebook or Twitter or email me. And thank you so much for having me come out to UC Davis. Thank you. No one's pulling me off, so if there are any questions, I know it doesn't say Q&A, but I'm going to do it because I have the mic. Are there any questions? Sure. What's your name? Sarah. Issac. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm 32.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah. I know a little about that. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Sarah is 32. She told me this. And she says that she has her BA, and she's now going back to becoming a neurosurgeon. And she likes all these things, and she's asking me, what path do I recommend? And this makes sense because that was me. I know the path to becoming a neurosurgeon. I would just go straight. And that's my advice, because if you go to medical school, you're going to do 4 years of medical school, 1 year internship, and a 6-year residency. That's like 12? Like I said, I almost failed calculus. That's like 12 years of work that's ahead of you, and so that's something I would consider, and so I would go straight through and find that pathway for you to go through medical school, get into medical school, and then get into residency. Yes, what's your name? Pablo. How you doing, Pablo? Was that okay? You like that? What's your question? Pablo's question is, what interested me in neurosurgery versus neurology versus psychiatry? And it's that same thing. I had one of my mentors take me into the OR, and I saw pulsing brain for the first time. And my mentor was a neurosurgeon, and so my mentors along the path have all been neurosurgeons, so important. And I looked at that and said, this is what I want to do, and that's how it steered me away. Thank you very much.